Welcome to our deep dive into the innovator's dilemma.
Okay.
I'm so excited to unpack this book with you
Me too.
because it tackles this question that's baffled business leaders for ages. Why do great companies with smart people and resources sometimes completely miss the boat on game-changing innovations?
It is a real head-scratcher.
Right.
What's so fascinating about Clayton Christensen's argument is that he doesn't blame mismanagement or incompetence.
Okay.
Instead, he suggests that the very things that make these companies successful,
Interesting.
listening to their customers, investing in profitable areas,
Right.
can become blinders when disruptive technology comes knocking.
It's almost like they're so good at playing the current game.
Yeah.
They don't even realize a new game is starting.
Right.
And Christensen uses some really striking examples to illustrate this point.
It does.
I mean, remember Sears?
Oh, yeah?
They were the retail titan.
Right.
Yet they completely failed to see the rise of discount retailers like Walmart and Kmart.
That's a perfect example of a company getting trapped by its own success.
Yeah.
Sears was so focused on their existing customer base and what had worked for them in the past
Right.
that they didn't recognize the disruptive potential of a completely different business model.
It's amazing how that happens.
It is.
And think about the tech world.
Oh, yeah.
Established disk drive manufacturers were blindsided by smaller, faster, cheaper drives.
Yeah.
Doesn't that sound eerily familiar to how things are playing out today
It does.
in so many industries?
Absolutely. It's a pattern that repeats itself across sectors.
But to understand why this happens, we
Yeah.
need to clarify what Christensen actually means
Right.
by disruptive technology.
Yes.
It's not just about a new invention being cool or flashy.
Right.
So if it's not about being better in the traditional sense,
Okay.
what makes a technology disruptive?
The key is that a disruptive technology often starts out performing worse than existing technologies in the areas mainstream customers care about.
But it offers other advantages.
Okay.
Maybe lower cost, simplicity, or convenience that appeal to a different, often overlooked market.
Oh.
Think of those early personal computers.
Oh, yeah.
Clunky and underpowered compared to mainframes,
Right.
but affordable and accessible for individuals.
So a company might dismiss a new technology because their current customers
Right.
don't see the need for it. It's
Exactly.
like they're looking in the wrong direction entirely.
Precisely.
Yeah.
Christensen uses the example of Honda, Yamaha,
Okay.
and Kawasaki entering the motorcycle market.
Okay.
Their small off-road bikes
Yeah.
were initially viewed as toys compared to the powerful motorcycles
Interesting.
from Harley-Davidson and BMW.
Okay.
They appeal to a new segment,
Got it.
riders looking for something fun and affordable for off-roading.
So the established players didn't even see them as a threat.
Right.
They were playing in a different sandbox.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But what happened?
Is that these disruptive technologies don't stay stagnant.
Mm.
They improve over time.
Right.
And eventually they become good enough
Wow.
and often much cheaper
Wow.
to satisfy the needs of the mainstream market.
Ah.
That's when the ground starts to shift under the giants.
That's like a slow motion takeover.
It is.
So it's not about bad management or missing obvious signs.
Right.
Why do these companies fall into this trap repeatedly?
Christensen argues that companies become prisoners
Oh.
of their own value networks.
Okay.
They're so attuned to their existing customers, the profit margins,
Right.
and their organizational structures that they become blind to anything
Wow.
that doesn't fit within that framework.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
It's like being so focused on what's right in front of you that you miss
Right.
what's happening in your peripheral vision.
Exactly.
And to really hammer home this point,
Okay.
Christensen takes us deep into several case studies.
Yeah.
He starts with the disk drive industry,
Yeah. Okay.
which might sound a bit dry,
Right.
but it's actually a fascinating example
It is.
of how this plays out in a very concrete way.
The disk drive industry provides a clear illustration
Yeah.
of how established firms focused on providing better, faster, more reliable drives
Okay.
for their existing customers.
Right.
Missed the emergence of smaller, cheaper drives
Huh.
that eventually dominated the market.
Wow.
They were caught in a loop of sustaining innovation for their existing customers.
So while they were busy making incremental improvements,
Yeah,
they missed the bigger wave building beneath them.
that's right.
It makes you wonder if sometimes being too good at what you do
It's true.
can be a liability.
That's the paradox Christensen highlights.
Wow.
And it's not just about the technology itself.
Okay.
He shows how the very structure of the company
Right.
can hinder its ability to adapt.
Got it.
To survive, disruption companies sometimes need to break free
Okay.
from their existing structures and create new independent units
Wow.
that can operate with the agility of a startup.
Like a mini rebellion within the company itself.
Yeah, like a spin-off.
And speaking of mini rebellions,
Okay.
Christensen uses a really compelling case study
Yeah.
to illustrate this point.
Okay.
The story of Quantum Corporation and their spin-off Plus development.
Right.
Quantum was a leader in 8-inch disk drives,
Okay.
but they recognized the disruptive potential
Yeah.
of the smaller 5.25-inch drive.
Got it.
Instead of trying to integrate this new technology into their existing business,
Right.
which likely would face resistance,
Yeah.
they created Plus Development
Okay.
as an independent entity
Right.
to focus solely on the emerging market.
Ah. So they essentially created a separate company to compete with themselves.
Exactly.
That seems counterintuitive.
It does.
But I guess that's the point, right?
That's the point.
Yeah.
This strategic moves gave Plus the freedom
Okay.
and flexibility to operate.
Outside the constraints of Quantum's established value network.
So they were no longer prisoners.
Right.
to them.
Exactly.
Okay.
What's interesting is that Plus ended up thriving,
Wow.
even as Quantum's core business began to decline.
So they basically disrupted themselves
They did.
before anyone else could.
Yeah.
It's almost like a preemptive strike against the innovator's dilemma.
It is.
But can we talk about that term value network a bit more?
Sure.
It seems crucial to understanding all of this.
Absolutely. Value network is the lens through which a company views the world.
Okay.
It encompasses their customers,
Uh-huh.
their profit margins,
Right.
their processes,
Got it.
and even their corporate culture.
Interesting.
It determines what they see as valuable and what they prioritize.
So in a sense, a company's value network
Yeah,
can become a self-fulfilling prophecy,
it can.
leading them to make decisions that ultimately reinforce their existing perspective,
Wow,
even
okay.
when that perspective is becoming outdated.
Precisely.
And to further illustrate this,
Okay.
Christensen takes us beyond the world of disk drives.
Yeah.
And into the seemingly less tech-driven world of mechanical excavators.
Oh,
Believe
wow.
it or not, this industry
Really?
also experienced a major disruption.
It did.
I never thought I'd find excavators fascinating,
Well,
but honestly, this is grabbing my attention.
Good.
What happened?
we have these giants in the industry,
Okay.
like Bucyrus Erie,
Okay.
who were kings of the cable-actuated excavator.
Okay.
Along comes hydraulic technology,
Uh-huh.
which initially seemed inferior,
Oh, really?
suited only for smaller jobs,
Okay.
not the heavy lifting that Bucyrus Erie specialized in.
So they dismissed it as a niche solution,
Yeah.
not a threat to their core business.
Right.
I'm sensing a theme here.
You're catching on.
Just like with the disk drives, these established companies
Yeah.
were so focused on improving their existing products for their existing customers.
That they missed the potential of hydraulics
Exactly.
to completely reshape the industry.
It's the same pattern.
And of course, the hydraulic technology eventually improved
It did.
and moved up market,
Right.
ultimately becoming the dominant force
Yep.
in the excavator industry,
Uh-huh.
leaving companies like Bucyrus Erie struggling to catch up.
Sadly.
That's
Yeah.
another striking example
It is.
of how a company's value network can blind them
Yeah.
to the potential of a disruptive technology.
It's a powerful concept.
But are there any examples of companies successfully navigating this dilemma?
Oh, yeah, there are.
Okay,
Is there hope for avoiding this fate?
that's what I want to know.
Absolutely. There are companies that manage to adapt and thrive.
Okay, tell me about them.
In the face of disruption, Christensen highlights several examples,
All right.
including Controlled Data Corporation,
Okay.
another player in the disk drive arena.
Okay, so what do they do differently?
Well, Controlled Data, while dominant in the 14-inch drive market, initially missed the boat on the smaller 8-inch drives.
Okay, so they made that mistake.
They did.
Okay.
However, they learned from this experience
Oh, good.
and took a different approach
Okay.
when the even smaller 5.25-inch drives emerged.
They didn't want to get blindsided again.
Right.
So what did they do?
Instead of trying to force the new technology into their existing structure,
Okay.
they created a separate,
Yeah.
independent organization in Oklahoma City, specifically dedicated to developing
Wow.
and marketing the 5.25-inch drives.
That's brilliant.
It was a smart move.
They essentially gave this new technology the space and freedom it needed
Exacto.
to flourish without being held back by the limitations of their existing business.
Yeah, they didn't want to stifle it.
So they ended up competing with themselves,
Right.
but in a way that allowed them to stay ahead of the curve.
Precisely.
That's fascinating.
It is.
It really shows you that sometimes you need to think outside the box
You do.
to survive in the long run.
Absolutely.
And, you know, it makes me wonder,
Yeah.
how many other companies are out there
Oh, I'm sure.
that are facing similar challenges?
Countless.
Yeah. And are they making the right decisions?
Well, some are and some aren't.
Right. And it's so important to learn from these examples
It is.
so that we can avoid making the same mistakes.
Exactly. History often repeats itself.
That's for sure. And speaking of history,
Yeah.
we've only just scratched the surface of the innovator's dilemma.
That's right.
There's so much more to explore.
There is.
So let's take a quick break,
Okay.
and we'll be back in a moment
Sounds good.
to delve even deeper
I'm ready when you are.
into this fascinating topic.
Me too.
Welcome back to our deep dive into the innovator's dilemma.
Okay.
Before the break, we were discussing how Hewlett-Packard
Right.
boldly created a separate division to tackle the emerging threat of inkjet printers
Yeah.
to their laser printer business.
Right.
Talk about embracing self-disruption.
It's a remarkable example of a company recognizing that a new technology required a completely different approach,
Right.
even if it meant potentially challenging their own established product line.
It really highlights how crucial it is to understand
Yes.
not just your own value network,
Right.
but also the value networks of your potential customers.
Exactly.
After all, inkjet printers were initially seen as inferior to laser printers.
They were.
What made HP realize they couldn't just ignore this seemingly less sophisticated technology?
That's where Christensen's framework for analyzing disruptive innovations really shines.
Yeah.
He emphasizes that it's not just about the technology itself at a given moment,
Right.
but about how that technology is likely to evolve and whether its trajectory will eventually intersect with what the market needs.
So it's about anticipating where a technology is headed,
Yes.
not just where it stands today.
Right.
Kind of like spotting a tiny sapling that could one day grow into a towering redwood.
Exactly.
I like that.
In the case of inkjet printers, HP recognized that while they couldn't match the quality and speed of laser printers initially, they offered advantages that appealed to a different segment of the market.
Okay.
Home users.
Got it.
They were smaller,
Yeah.
more affordable,
Right.
and easier to use.
Makes sense.
Those factors mattered tremendously to a growing number of people who didn't need the professional-grade capabilities of laser printers.
So by creating a separate division,
Right.
HP was essentially hedging their bets.
They were.
They could continue to serve their existing laser printer customers while simultaneously tapping into this new market
Exactly.
with a product tailored to its specific needs.
That's right.
It's like they were playing both sides of the field.
That's a great analogy.
And it highlights another key principle Christensen emphasizes: the importance of matching the size of the organization to the size of the market. A large established company with its existing processes and priorities might struggle to nurture a disruptive innovation.
Yeah.
That initially serves a small niche market.
That's the challenge.
It's like trying to fit an elephant into a Mini Cooper.
Oh, I love that.
A smaller, more agile team can move faster,
Right.
experiment more freely,
Yeah.
and respond more effectively
Exactly.
to the unique demands of a disruptive market.
It's about being nimble.
And in HP's case, this approach clearly paid off.
It did.
Their inkjet printer division thrived and ultimately became a significant part
Right.
of their overall business.
It's a success story that underscores the power of recognizing and adapting to disruptive change.
Absolutely.
But as you mentioned earlier, Christensen doesn't just focus on companies.
Right.
He also challenges us as individuals.
That's what really intrigues me about this book.
Yeah.
It's not just a business theory.
No, it's
a framework for thinking about
Right.
how to navigate a world where the only constant is change.
Exactly.
And let's face it, disruption isn't limited to the corporate world.
It's everywhere.
It's happening everywhere all the time.
All the time.
So how can we as individuals develop that disruption radar you mentioned?
That's the million-dollar question.
Right.
And I think Christensen offers some valuable clues.
Okay, I'm listening.
First, it's about cultivating a mindset
Okay.
of curiosity and continuous learning.
So being a lifelong learner.
Exactly.
Okay.
We need to stay informed about emerging trends and technologies,
Got it.
even those outside our immediate field of expertise.
So it's about being a lifelong learner,
Yes.
always asking questions, and seeking out new knowledge.
That's right.
But it's not just about absorbing information passively, right?
No, it's not.
We need to be able to connect the dots
Yeah.
to see how seemingly disparate trends might converge and create entirely new possibilities.
That's the key.
So it's about developing the ability to think critically and creatively,
Absolutely.
to challenge assumptions,
Huh.
and to imagine different futures.
That's how innovation happens.
And this requires stepping outside our comfort zones,
It does.
exposing ourselves to diverse perspectives,
Yeah.
and engaging in conversations with people who think differently than we do.
It's about expanding our horizons.
So it's about being intellectually curious
Yes.
and open-minded,
Uh-huh.
willing to challenge our own beliefs
Right.
and explore new ways of thinking.
That's how we grow.
That sounds both exciting and a bit daunting.
It can be both, for sure.
Right.
But it's also incredibly empowering.
I can see that.
Remember, the companies that get disrupted
Yeah.
are often those that become too comfortable with the status quo,
Makes sense.
too wedded to their existing ways of doing things.
They get stuck in their ways.
They do.
Yeah.
They fail to see the signals of change
Right.
until it's too late.
It's like they get stuck in a mental rut
Yeah.
while the world around them is
Yeah.
transforming.
That's a good way to put it.
And I think the same can happen to us as individuals, can't?
It can.
We can get so focused on our current job,
Yeah.
our current skills, our current way of thinking,
Right.
that we miss opportunities to grow and adapt.
That's a great point.
And it brings us to another crucial element
Okay.
of Christensen's framework,
Yeah.
the importance of experimentation.
Absolutely.
Just as companies need to be willing to try new things,
Yes.
to test their assumptions,
Uh-huh.
and to learn from their failures,
Right.
so too do individuals need to embrace a spirit of experimentation
It's essential.
in their own lives and careers. That makes sense.
It does.
It's about not being afraid to step outside our comfort zone, to try new things,
Right.
and to be willing to fail and learn from those experiences.
Exactly.
It's about adopting a growth mindset,
Yeah.
recognizing that failure is not the opposite of success,
That's right.
but rather a necessary step on the path to growth
Exactly.
and innovation.
It's part of the process.
And this is where Christensen's concept
Okay.
of discovery-driven planning
Yeah.
becomes really relevant for individuals.
I agree.
Traditional planning often focuses on setting specific goals
Right.
and then developing a detailed roadmap
Uh-huh.
for achieving them.
Okay.
But in a world of rapid change and disruption,
Yeah.
this approach can be limiting
It can.
because the goalposts might shift,
They might.
the roadmap might become obsolete,
Right.
and we might end up clinging to a plan
Exactly.
that's no longer relevant.
You got it.
Precisely.
Discovery-driven planning, on the other hand,
Yeah.
embraces uncertainty.
Interesting.
It encourages us to start with a hypothesis,
Okay.
to experiment,
Yeah.
to gather data,
Uh-huh.
and to adjust our course as we learn.
It's about being flexible, adaptable,
Yes.
and willing to pivot when needed.
Exactly.
So instead of trying to predict the future with absolute certainty,
Right.
we need to be comfortable
Yeah.
with navigating a certain level of ambiguity
I think so.
and adapting our plans as we gain new insights.
Precisely.
And this approach can be applied to everything,
It can.
from exploring new career paths
Yes.
to developing new skills to simply expanding our knowledge
Right.
and understanding of the world around us.
That's a powerful tool.
It's about being proactive,
Absolutely.
about shaping our own future,
Right.
rather than simply reacting to the changes happening around us.
That's the key.
Precisely.
And this brings us back to the question of how we as individuals
Yes.
can develop that disruption radar to stay ahead of the curve.
Right.
It's about cultivating a mindset
Uh-huh.
of curiosity,
Okay.
continuous learning,
Yeah.
and experimentation,
Got it.
and embracing a discovery-driven approach
Right.
to planning and decision-making.
It's a tall order,
It is.
but also incredibly empowering.
It is.
It's about recognizing that we have agency,
We do.
that we're not simply pawns in the game of disruption,
Right.
but active players
Mm-hmm.
who can shape our own destiny.
We have more control than we think.
But before we get carried away with our newfound agency,
Okay.
let's pause here and continue this discussion in part 3. We'll explore more practical strategies
Sounds good.
for applying Christensen's insights
Okay.
to our own lives and careers,
Yeah.
and delve into some real-world examples
I like it.
of individuals who've successfully navigated disruptive change.
Great examples are always helpful.
We'll be back shortly
Looking forward to it.
to wrap up our deep dive into the innovator's dilemma
Me too.
and equip you with the tools
Right.
to thrive in a world of constant transformation.
It's an exciting world out there.
Stay tuned.
Okay.
Welcome back to the final part of our deep dive into the innovator's dilemma.
Right.
We've been exploring how disruptive technologies can shake up entire industries
We can.
and how even the most successful companies can stumble
Right.
if they're not paying attention.
It's a wake-up call for sure.
But it's not just about companies, is it?
Absolutely not, as we discussed in part 2.
All right.
These principles apply just as powerfully to us as individuals navigating a world of a constant change.
It's about developing our own personal disruption radar
Exactly.
and being proactive in shaping our future.
That's the key.
And I'm really eager to delve into some practical strategies for doing just that.
Okay, let's do it.
So much of what we've talked about so far has been about recognizing the signs of disruption,
Right.
understanding value networks, and being open to new possibilities.
That's the foundation.
But how do we actually translate that into action?
That's where Christensen's emphasis on experimentation and a discovery-driven approach becomes really crucial for individuals.
So it's about taking that leap of faith.
It is.
Trying new things even if they feel a bit uncomfortable or risky.
You have to be willing to step outside your comfort zone.
It's about stepping outside of our usual routines and exploring uncharted territory.
That's where the magic happens.
It's like that saying, if you want something you've never had,
Right?
you have to do something you've never done.
I love that.
It's about breaking free from the inertia of our habits and routines and actively seeking out new experiences and challenges.
That's how we grow.
And one of the most effective ways to do this is to approach your career and personal development with a discovery-driven mindset.
I agree.
This means treating your goals as hypotheses to be tested,
Interesting.
not fixed destinations. It's about being open to learning and adjusting your course as you go.
So instead of clinging to a rigid 5-year plan, we should be more fluid and adaptable.
Willing to pivot based on new information and experiences.
Precisely, it's about embracing a process of continuous exploration and discovery, constantly asking questions, seeking feedback, and refining your approach based on what you learn.
Think of it as a dynamic journey.
I like that.
Not a linear path.
A journey of discovery.
I love that.
It's about being open to serendipity, to unexpected opportunities.
That might arise when we step outside our comfort zones.
Exactly.
And embrace a spirit of adventure.
It's all about exploration.
But it's not just about blindly trying anything and everything, is it?
No, it's not. There needs to be some sort of framework.
Okay.
Some way of making sense of the information we're gathering and the experiences we're having.
Absolutely.
And that's where Christensen's concept of value networks can be incredibly helpful, even for individuals.
So it's about understanding what you truly value.
Yes.
What motivates you.
Yeah.
And what kind of impact you want to make in the world.
Your personal value network acts as a compass, helping you navigate the complexities of a rapidly changing world.
It provides a framework for evaluating opportunities, making choices that align with your values, and ultimately creating a career and a life that feels both fulfilling and meaningful.
That's the goal.
It's about finding that sweet spot where your passions and skills intersect with the needs of the world.
I agree.
Where you can make a genuine contribution and leave a lasting impact.
It's about making a difference.
But let's get even more concrete. Can we explore some real-world examples of individuals who've successfully navigated disruptive change?
One example that comes to mind is the story of someone who was working in a traditional publishing house when the digital revolution began to transform the industry.
This sounds familiar.
Yeah.
I bet they were feeling the pressure.
They were.
As ebooks and online platforms started to disrupt the way people consume content?
That's right. Instead of clinging to the old ways of doing things, this individual recognized the potential of these new technologies and started experimenting with different ways to leverage them.
Interesting.
They learned new skills, built relationships with people in the tech industry.
Wow.
And eventually launched their own successful online publishing platform.
So they essentially disrupted themselves.
They did.
Before they were disrupted by external forces.
Exactly.
They embraced the change, adapted their skills,
Right.
and created their own opportunities.
It's a great example of turning a challenge into an opportunity.
That's inspiring.
It is, and it highlights a key takeaway
What's it?
from Christensen's work.
Okay.
Disruption often creates more opportunities than it destroys.
Really?
The challenge is to be among those who recognize those opportunities
Yeah.
and seize them.
It's about being proactive, not reactive.
Absolutely.
But being the architect of your own future.
Right.
Not a passive bystander watching the world change around you.
Exactly. And this proactive mindset is essential in every aspect of our lives.
I agree.
From our careers to our relationships to our personal growth.
It's about embracing lifelong learning.
Yes.
Being curious, experimenting,
Right.
and constantly seeking ways
Yeah.
to improve and evolve.
It's a journey of continuous improvement.
It's about being adaptable, resilient,
Absolutely.
and open to new possibilities.
That's the key.
It's about recognizing that change is inevitable,
It is.
but we have the power to choose how we respond to it.
That's a powerful message.
And it's one that resonates deeply with the core message
yeah,
of the innovator's dilemma.
it does.
It's not about fearing disruption,
right.
but about understanding it,
Yeah.
embracing it,
Uh-huh.
and ultimately harnessing its power
Absolutely.
to create a better future,
I love that.
both for ourselves and for the world around us.
It's about making a positive impact.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into this incredible book,
Yeah.
what's the one key takeaway you hope our listener will carry with them?
I would say this disruption is not an end point.
Okay.
It's a starting point. It's an invitation to innovate,
Yeah.
to grow,
Yeah.
and to create something new and extraordinary.
It's a call to action
Yeah.
to step up and be the disruptors,
I agree.
the innovators,
Yes.
the change makers.
The world needs more of those.
And I have a feeling our listeners are already thinking about
I hope so.
how they can apply these insights to their own life and career.
It's all about taking action.
Because the world needs more individuals
It does.
who are willing to embrace change,
Yeah.
challenge the status quo, and create a future filled with possibilities.
That's a great way to put it.
Well said. And on that note, we've reached the end of our deep dive.
Wow, that went by fast.
Thank you for joining us on this incredible journey
It's been a pleasure.
through the innovator's dilemma.
It has.
We hope you found it insightful, inspiring, and empowering.
Me too.
It's been a pleasure exploring these ideas with you. Likewise. And to our listener, we encourage you to continue this exploration on your own.
Yeah. Pick up a copy of the book.
Dive deep into its insights and start applying these principles to your own life.
The future is yours to shape.
Until next time, keep learning,
Keep growing.
keep growing,
And keep disrupting.
and keep disrupting.